We'll get a chance to dish it up with Dr. Deborah Stroman. Let's go.
From the basketball court at the University of Virginia to the classroom at UNC Chapel Hill, Dr. Deborah Stroman has it all covered. Now this professor and sports business entrepreneur is about to take you to school. It's time for Dishing It Up with Dr. Stroman and the Sports Show on Buzz Sports Radio.
Well, y'all aren't going to say it, but I'm going to say it. Kobe versus KD. We have some very, very uninformed listeners.
Ooh.
Talk to me.
I'm going to say it.
Talk to me, D.
Ooh.
Come on, Kobe and KD, that's not even a contest. But I'm going to leave it right there. But yes, I said it, and I would love to talk to anybody online, on the YouTube channel, whatever. You don't know the history. You do not know the history. Wow. But anyway,
I'm with you.
It is a great day. It is Juneteenth, and we're going to talk about Juneteenth and consciousness. I have so much to say here, but I want to make sure that I'm allowing some time for some dialogue back and forth. But for those who don't know, we got to talk about the facts. Juneteenth, it is a combination of the words June and 19th. Mm-hmm. So it represents that date in 1865 that the Union General, Gordon Granger, arrived in Galveston, Texas. And he had a General Order Number 3 announcing that enslaved Africans, that slavery was over, that General Lee had surrendered and that slavery was over. 2021, President Joe Biden signed the bill making Juneteenth a federal holiday, which means that federal employees get time paid. You get to go home or do service work, and you get paid. For private companies, it is a choice. So that is why we have many friends and family members who are still working today, if you work for a private company. The now 98-year-old Opal Lee, who is a sorority sister, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated.
Okay.
She is known as the grandmother of Juneteenth. She is known as the grandmother. In fact, after he signed it, he walked over to her and gave her her well-deserved praise. She actually walked from Texas to the Capitol, basically bringing more attention to Juneteenth. So that order number 3, it is important for us to look at the myths of Juneteenth. Yes, it did state that the people of Texas, not across the country at the time, but the people of in Texas were informed about this. But little did we know that it didn't mean that you were to go celebrate and have a good time and go, start your own business or whatever. These freedmen, formerly enslaved, the freedmen, they were advised to remain quietly at their present homes, as in on the plantation, and to work for wages. As in just negotiate. Now, you know what negotiation must have been like, but you were to negotiate with your former master and figure out how much money you're going to get paid. So you know how that went.
Yeah.
Another part of this, the myths or mistakes of Juneteenth history, officially, General Order Number 3 did not actually end enslavement in the United States.
Yeah.
Again, on June 19th, 1865. It was abolished by the 13th Amendment, which was passed on January 31, 1865, as in earlier that year, and yet it wasn't officially ratified by Congress until December 6th of 1865. It took nearly a year for our politicians to pass this. So the 13th Amendment states neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for a crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. So that's why we say today that mass incarceration is, as Douglas Blackman brilliantly wrote in his Pulitzer Prize-winning book, Slavery by Another Name. That's what mass incarceration is, because you can have enslavement, involuntary servitude, when people are locked up. I encourage people to take a look at the documentary or the book Slavery by Another Name. The other part about this is we talk about the Emancipation Proclamation. That's another proclamation that President Lincoln had announced back in 1863, nearly 2 years prior to Juneteenth, right? It only addressed the institution of enslavement in the Confederate States, which were at that time, they were at war with the federal government. So way back when, President Lincoln had said, everybody's free, but it didn't apply to the Confederate States, as in they didn't comply because they had left the so-called Union.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, the other thing to say here about the myths and the misinformation.
Oh.
There were troops actually already in Texas, all right? So even though General Granger in his order number 3 gets all the attention, gets all the praise as in setting people free, there were actual announcements about the Emancipation Proclamation that everybody was free in the Confederate States. It's just that you didn't have a modern day system of mass communication. So it took time to get out the news, whether it's handbills, telegraph, and newspapers. In fact, in 1862, there was the Emancipation Proclamation was published in full in Houston in a newspaper called the Tri-Weekly Telegraph. So again, it wasn't like the Texas folks were completely clueless. Most enslaved people, of course, were illiterate at the time because it was against the law to teach us how to read. But they could certainly listen and they could hear their masters discussing it. Okay? Also, I'll say that Texas was not the last state to retain slavery. It was the last slave-holding state of the Confederacy to free its slaves. But the border states of Delaware and Kentucky, they continued enslavement until it was abolished again by the 13th Amendment. And so here is one quiz question for you. What was the last state to ratify the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery? What state was the last one to abolish it? Anybody know?
Can we get a multiple choice on that one?
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do multiple choice.
Yeah.
Kentucky, South Carolina, Mississippi, or Louisiana?
Well, that's interesting.
That didn't help.
I'm gonna go Kentucky. It's either that or Mississippi.
I'm going.
Was it South
I'm surprised Alabama went part. I was going to say Alabama off the dribble, but no. Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Now, what letter were you taught to always check in multiple choice when you don't know the answer?
C.
All the above.
C.
That's right. You always check C, and that's where I put the answer. It's Mississippi.
Wow.
Hey, I got to have right.
I'm glad that you all are sitting down because here's the kicker. Mississippi ratified the amendment. Now, remember, the 13th Amendment passed in 1865. Mississippi ratified the amendment in 1995, but because the state never officially notified the U.S.
Wait a minute. Hold up.
Yeah.
Wait.
I
Come
know,
on, Matt. Come on, Matt. Come on now. So if you walk around and you walking back down and you start reading the menu, they can take you to jail.
Keep going, Dr. Stroman. Keep going, Dr. Stroman.
You don't supposed to realize.
Dr. Stroman said 1995. Keep going, Dr. Stroman.
I mean,
There's got to be more to the story.
Yes, there is. Mississippi ratified the amendment in 1995 because the state never officially notified the United States Archivist. The ratification was not official until February 7th, 2013. The state of Mississippi had never submitted the required documentation to ratify the 13th Amendment, meaning it never officially had abolished slavery.
Y'all been free in
Hold on, wait a minute.
12 years. Y'all been free 12 years.
Hold on.
That's right.
What? 160 versus 12?
So
What the hell's going on?
I've been on the run the whole time.
That's why you left.
We going up north.
That's why he left.
I've been on the run the whole time.
Now you can imagine the excuses they had over all these years not to turn the papers in.
That's the craziest thing in the world right there.
Yeah.
Like, what?
So Mississippi
2013.
continues to be challenged. So, we are a sports show, so I want to put those two together. And here's my list of black athletes who you can tell are free, or as I like to say, conscious.
Okay.
No doubt Joe Louis, 1914 to 1981. A lot of people don't know about what Joe was doing to fund black community events and activism and all of that. I guess the hero of everyone is Muhammad Ali,
Absolutely.
1942 to 2016. Here's one people might not have heard of, Rosianna Rose Robinson, 1924 to 1976. She was a track and field star. She turned down the chance to compete at the 1960 Olympics in political protest. To make a long story short, and I encourage people to take a look at Rose Robinson. At the Pan American Games in 1961, when the Star-Spangled Banner was played, Robinson remained seated. She said that the anthem and the flag represented war, injustice, and hypocrisy. And this was 57 years before Colin Kaepernick knelt. So Rose Robinson.
Okay,
Jackie Robinson. Yep, Jackie Robinson. We know about his amazing work, 1919 and 1972. Tommy Smith, right? With John Carlos, Mexico City Olympics in 1968.
Yes.
Food on the medal stand, but he defiantly raised his fist again to make it clear what he did was intentional and unapologetic. Here's one that I had the opportunity to actually sit down and talk to this gentleman, Craig Hodges.
Oh, yeah.
Who's Craig Hodges? Y'all remember?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he got banned from the NBA, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He was actually in the starting backcourt with Michael Jordan when he hit the shot against Cleveland. But Craig Hodges was known for his activism. He grew up in a very race-conscious family. In 1991, he tried to convince the Chicago Bulls teammates and the opposing Los Angeles Lakers to boycott Game 1 of the NBA Finals, complaining about the lack of black ownership in the NBA. When they went to the White House after winning the 91 championship, Craig Hodges wore a dashiki. So you imagine what that looked like back then. Yep. And yes, he was basically let go and never had a chance to play in the NBA again, even though he was a 40% three-point shooter back then.
Yeah, he won a three-point shooting contest at the All-Star game a couple of times. Yeah.
Yes. And then more recently, Colin Kaepernick, of course, 2016 when he knelt. Serena Williams, very, very vocal advocate for black women. LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony. People might not know that LeBron James actually consulted with President Barack Obama during the work stoppage in the wake of the James Blake shooting. Jaylen Brown, he's my new hero in this space.
Yes.
Boston Celtics, just a brilliant brother. Mm-hmm. Cal Berkeley graduate, did a lot of marching. Today he's very, very, very loud in terms of his politics and how he feels about our community. And then I'm going to add Jalen Hurts in a very quiet way. Chose not to visit the White House when the Eagles won the championship, and he's doing a lot of flexing with his all-black advising team. So Juneteenth, freedom, and consciousness.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Be free, be conscious.
Yeah.
Don't let it be 2013.
Are there any athletes or administrators, GMs, people in sports that you admire for their consciousness and lifting up the injustices that we still face?
Oh, that's a great question.
I know this may sound just completely crazy, but I really do admire the way Greg Popovich, in a sense, and Steve Kerr.
Yeah.
Steve Kerr's a great one.
But they just unapologetically just call out the foolishness.
Yeah, those are two great ones.
And they just say, look, man, you know and I know that this is stupid. In the way that you're doing this is wrong. I don't know why you think it is right, but it's just wrong. And then they just move on. They just it's like I call for this all the time. I always say, if people would just do a little bit better job checking their neighbors on just the flat out lies and just foolishness, I think we can get a lot further ahead. But a lot of people just sit there and let their peers say stupid stuff and do stupid stuff and run off thinking crazy. And it's like, you could stop this. You sit right next to them. You could say, come on, man, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
I have to echo.
Just as simple as that.
Those two names, those are perfect names, and I mean, they're spot on. Those are great suggestions.
Yeah, I don't sign up for let's shut down the league and let's do this and let's cut off the bridges and destroy stuff. I don't necessarily sign up for that. But I will say, I really do appreciate when people just call people out for just for being stupid. Yeah, I really do have a better appreciation for that.
No, thank you for that. They are great examples. I don't subscribe to that as well, but I also understand when you've got a foot on your neck, and you don't know where your next meal is coming from. How are you going to, put food in your baby's mouth? I can understand the rage. I completely understand it. And then people will fuss and say, well, why are they tearing up their own neighborhoods? They don't see any ownership in their neighborhoods, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And if there were black businesses in that town, and generally there aren't, they are owned and managed by people who don't look like themselves.
Right.
So I completely get it. But thank you for lifting up two great ally leaders. I don't like to use the word ally, but ally leaders in Coach Pop and Kerr.
Yeah. And there are others we just can't think of. A lot of them we probably don't even know. They're doing things underneath, behind the scenes that they're making an impact as well.
And the way Brown is doing it for Boston, I think is, Kyrie does it one way, but now Brown is doing it. But Brown is really, really, really intentional about calling out things that you really can't dispute, right? And it makes it really plain and really clear that the system of which he wants to try to attack is what he's bringing to the forefront. It's not just you call somebody an N-word or you do this, you do that. He's really challenging the system that keeps black and brown people oppressed.
This is very good discussion, though. You make people think when you ask that question, and I would love to say that there's a plethora amount of people that we can name off the bat, but I'm not. We can't do that right now, and I'm not sure.
Right.
That's not good. That's
right.
It's really, I ain't gonna hurt my money. I ain't gonna say that. A lot of people are afraid of the backlash if they speak how they really feel about certain topics, particularly social issues that we have going on in this country right now. And I think if you hadn't looked around, paid attention, we at the highest level. I think we've been held since the 1960s.
Ever.
Yes.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
I mean, seriously. And
that's right.
Don't sleep.
I think, honestly, I really despise it that we're we're here.
Yeah.
But you gotta either be conscious today, now, or never, because it was a slippery slope we were headed down. I'm telling you, man, we were sleepwalking, like for real. People were sleepwalking in their own, perceived success, not realizing that the system was still in play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think as we continue to apply this consciousness into ownership, do for self, do for community. People talk about self-care, and I always like to make sure that we also double down on community care.
Yeah.
Because we can't be selfish. We can't be all about ourselves. You stand on someone's shoulders, and we need to give respect and also lift as we climb, right? And so it's important to have community care as well. And so I'm very, very grateful for those athletes who are making millions and millions of dollars, who continue to be concerned about those who don't have anything or who have little. And I do want to say WNBA athletes as well for the way they stepped up for the Black Lives Matter movement as well. And thank you for what you all are doing. You all are role models each and every day, especially now being on YouTube. We can watch every move that you make.
We appreciate it.
As you present. So the fixing of the hair and the scratching of the beard and all of that. But it's a great image in showing your consciousness to be able to even have these type of conversations. So I salute you as well.
Yeah, and Chuck Hunt said the same thing. It's great that you all can have a sports show where you can talk social issues freely, and we've been that way for 15 years. And just a little addition point to just speaking out loud. I know we go to cigar shop every day. I know 3 people, 2 in this room, and Grace is another one where we have this interesting conversation where people try to justify a lot of things that's going on in this country, and we have open discussion about it.
That's right.
And that's how come I get alarmed about what comes out of people's mouth when they try to justify what's going on. It blows my mind. Yeah. It makes me really, really nervous about by where we are in this country, but they get challenged like you wouldn't believe.
And I, as you can imagine, I accept that challenge.
I'm sure you do.
We lean into it now.
I accept
We
that
lean
challenge
into it
hard
now.
because I don't have a problem having a conversation. You don't have to, we don't have to all
Agree, yeah.
sing from the same all that. I don't have a
That's
problem
right.
having a conversation.
Yeah.
But if we go can put the coffee mug in the center of the table and say we both agree this is blue, right?
Right.
Right. And the right thing to do is to leave it blue. Yes. Okay. You got to explain to me why we got to change it to green.
Right.
I mean, 'cause if we both come to now some people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I don't think it's blue. But what? Then you realize what you're working with, right? So there are some people that they just will not accept reality. That some things are just human, right? And being a human, they don't accept that as a reality. They believe that you should, you got to conform to what they believe, what they want to see. But we don't have a problem having a conversation. That's
No.
what we do.
Yeah.
And
Lean
that's
into
the beautiful
it.
thing.
Yep.
I think we can certainly look at our educational institutions and point a lot of fingers in terms of what we're not taught and what's not in the curricula, which is it's valid. That is a fact. But once you get a certain age, you have to think about how am I going to be a critical thinker? I can Google Scholar, I can research, I can talk to people who are experts, I can listen to the sports shop and learn. But once you get a certain age, it's on you. It's your responsibility. We can't blame anymore. You can research this stuff and come to the conclusion that the cup is blue.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And if you
Do your homework.
If
Thank you.
99.9% of the people say you realize this is blue.
I mean,
And you say,
Exactly.
I just don't see a reason why it has to be blue
See,
because this is something that
justification.
needs. I'm like, what?
it's just
Like, wow, okay.
Try to justify that. It's ridiculous.
But anyway, Dr. Stroman, it's been a
hey,
pleasure.
this is
Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much. I was looking forward to our Juneteenth conversation. I knew we was going to have a good one. You didn't disappoint.
Oh, thank you. Y'all have a great day. Enjoy the celebrations. Hug someone, lift someone up, and definitely check in on your friends and family members.
There you go.
Outstanding.
All right,
Thank you so
D-Stone,
much.